Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 3 of the Artiszen Life podcast. Here we will talk about how art can help you relax, improve your creativity and focus, and provide you with a little serenity in this circus we call life. I am Samantha Carter, and I am on my own journey with art as a means for self expression and serenity, and I'm excited to share what I learn with you. On this week's episode, we are going to talk about why art is so important in our lives. We're also going to talk about how art can help us solve problems. And finally, we are going to cover one of the components of creating art known as mark making. And that is something that's used in traditional art mediums like painting, drawing, etc. So we're going to cover some of that, and if you're following along on the video, you're going to see some examples of that. So let's start out with talking a little bit about why we should even carve out time to make art. And we talk a little bit about why it's important. Why should we want to? And I just recently went to the annual Art Toronto show in, obviously, Toronto at the Convention Center. This is something that happens every year in October. And as I was walking through the Convention Center and looking at all of the art that the galleries from all over the world had brought for us to look at, and I mean, for some people to buy, I was just overwhelmed with the diversity of the types of art, from sculpture to painting to drawing to pretty much everything you can think of from a visual arts perspective, using so many different mediums, whether or not it was paper, watercolor, mylar board, wood. There were so many different things that people used with which to create their masterpieces. And I mean, if you're lucky enough to be somebody who's a collector and have the money to buy that, that's fantastic. But while I was there, I was so inspired to create my own art, just seeing what other people are capable of. And from everything from there was a lot to see, from the beautifully rendered realistic paintings in oil and acrylic to a menagerie of found objects pieced together and covered in velvet spray, and things you maybe wouldn't have an opportunity to see elsewhere. So I would encourage you to check out your local art shows and see what's coming to a location near you, because it'll give you the opportunity to check out works of art that you wouldn't normally or readily or easily be able to be exposed to. Last year, I was lucky to see some Picasso drawings, sketches. I've seen some Warhols in person, and you can get pretty close to them. You can always tell when an artist is looking at a painting because they get so close to the painting because or the piece of art, because they're trying to understand how it was put together. So at a place like an art show like this one, you can get pretty close to the works of art to get a good idea of how the artist made their strokes or what they used to put these found objects together and that kind of thing. So I highly encourage it. So the point of all of this is not all art will make its way into a gallery. Not all art will be on a collector's wall. Going to see an event like that, though, is sure to inspire the hidden artist in each of us. And even just looking at it and taking the time to appreciate each of the works that you see may bring you some of the benefits that experiencing art can give you. And as I may have mentioned earlier, some of those benefits include activating the reward centers in the brain, giving us a little hit of serotonin or dopamine. It allows us to achieve a level of peace and serenity because going through a process can help us manage our stress and emotions. It can improve our optimism and creativity. It can allow us to focus deeply. And overall, it can improve our quality of life and our mental well-being. So it plays a huge role in our lives, and it is important aspect of what it means to be human. So why is art important in our lives? Ultimately, it provides us with an opportunity for emotional expression and insight. So many of the artworks that we see on walls in galleries that evoke an emotional response in us have also done that for the artist who made them. Art also can be an expression of a position on political ideals, religious ideals. It tells a story. Also gives us a break from thinking about a problem when we're engaged in art, kind of like gardening or other activities that require a little bit of focus, but not our full engagement. It can give you a break from thinking about all of the things that are going on in your life and provide you with a little bit of relaxation and zen. It can be used as a means to allow your brain to work unconsciously through your thoughts. We make art for pleasure. We make art for relaxation. So when I talk about the artisan life, what I am referring to is allowing yourself to create art as a means to provide yourself with some serenity, some zen, and a little bit of a break from the stresses of daily life. And if you've listened to a couple of the other episodes, you've probably realized by now that getting other people to do this is a little bit of a passion of mine. That said, I know there are quite a few people that really do need a compelling reason to make art. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that I'm not an artist. I've been at a number of events where I've had my art on display, and I've invited people to try out the artisan kit that I have. It has all the tools, all the implements out on the table, and somebody's just walking by who's interested. You can tell they're interested because they stop and they pause, and I invite them to make a mark on the paper or the canvas or whatever it is I have out front. And inevitably, the first reaction is they put their hand to their heart or their chest and they say, "Oh, I'm not an artist. Oh, I'm not creative. Oh, I can't." But there's a hesitation there that they actually kind of want to, but there is something in them that is preventing them from taking that step. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what a compelling reason is for some people who want to maybe have some underlying desire to make art, but haven't quite taken that step to do so. Art is a really great way to keep your conscious mind busy while solving a problem. So there's a lot of insight that can be gained while you are making art, depending on what we choose to do. And research has shown that when we have a problem to solve or an issue that we are trying to get to the bottom of, if we can distract our conscious mind and allow our unconscious mind to continue to work in the background, we can sometimes come up with better solutions than that we would have if we had tried to maintain our sole focus on that problem and resolve it in one go. As we know, the unconscious mind is a very powerful processor, and it works in the background to solve problems and come up with solutions to all of our questions, whether they're big or small. Yesterday, I was just talking to a friend of mine about one of my favorite movies, The Princess Bride, and I couldn't remember the name of the actor who played the bedridden child. And when did it come to me? It came to me when I was brushing my teeth while getting ready for bed. And we've all had those moments. Our minds are constantly working in the background to help us solve our problems, and they have so much more information available in them than we know as possible. So, the unconscious mind or non conscious mind will continue to work to answer our questions without our active participation. So, this applies also to complex problem solving. There is a neuroscientist by the name of David Cresswell who does research on this specifically. And he was looking to explore what happens when people tackle problems that are too big for their conscious mind to solve. So, his research showed that people who were given a distractor task that lightly held their attention while allowing their non-conscious mind to continue to keep working performed the best at optimally solving their problem. And that to me is fascinating. So if you're able to prime yourself on something that you are trying to figure out prior to engaging in a 20-minute activity of making or creating art that follows the process and it doesn't engage your full cognitive process, how much better can you resolve that problem or come back to that problem than if you had just tried facing it head on that whole time? So that is another compelling reason of why you would want to make art. So the next time that you have a complex problem that you're trying to resolve, pull out a piece of paper, spend 20 minutes making some process art or following a process art video or getting a prompt and engaging your creative mind in completing a small artwork, whatever that might seem like to you, and see if at the end of that you're not a little closer to solving your problem. And you can pretty much do this anywhere. You can do this at work, on your lunch break, you can do it in between meetings, you can do it at home at night, and you don't need all kinds of fancy materials or pencils or oils or anything like that in order to do so. And remember, the art that we're talking about on this podcast is art we make for ourselves purely for the joy and the process of it. This is not intended for you to learn how to make art that you can hang on your walls, although maybe you will someday, and I think that's fantastic. This is more about using art as a tool to help you relax, to connect with your thoughts, and to tap into the power of your unconscious mind. So I mentioned earlier that we were going to talk a little bit about mark making, and pretty much all traditional artwork is made up of little marks, whether they're paintbrush strokes, whether they're pencil strokes, whether they're lines, etc. There are so many different ways to make marks on a paper, on a surface that will give you an overall piece of art. So there's a number of different tools that you can use to make marks with, and that's some examples that I'm going to talk about today are looking around your environment for something that can make an impression or can be drawn on or dipped in paint to make an impression on a piece of paper or canvas. And I have about 6 things in front of me right now that are items that I could use to make marks on a piece of paper. I have a dried leaf, I have a bulldog clip, I have a lid from a Play-Doh container, I have a fork, and I have, of all things, a potato masher. These are just examples of things that you can have around your house or in your office. Another one might be a paper clip that you can use to outline, to dip in paint and stamp on something, to dip in ink and stamp on something. And that's what I mean by using what you have in your environment to create marks that can come together and form a cohesive drawing. So I am going to actually take the bulldog clip and a pencil. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to place that down on my paper surface, and I'm going to outline it with my pencil. And that in itself, obviously it makes an outline of the shape of the bulldog clip on the paper, so you have like a 2D image. That said, when I pull it away, it just kind of looks like, I don't know, maybe something with a thumb up, or I'm not sure. There's a lot of different things that you could imagine it might be, and let your imagination go wild when you're doing this, depending on the object that you've chosen. And I'm going to do this over and over and over again. And what will start to form are all of these intersecting shapes that will start to fill up the page. And as I'm doing that, I'm not really thinking about a whole lot else. I'm just following the process of outlining the clip and moving the clip and then outlining it again, rinse and repeat. And then I'm going to do that for about 10-15 minutes until I have a number of these outlines all over the page. And as you start to do it, you can be a little bit more deliberate in where you are going to place that clip, because maybe you're going to take that bulldog clip and instead of just making a random pattern, you're going to form it into a circle that maybe will turn into a clock. Or maybe you'll notice that, oh, one side of this actually looks like a leg. Maybe I could form these into the impression of a dog or an animal or something else. So that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. So in this particular example, I chose a bulldog clip to try to make those marks and impressions. But like I said, there's a lot of other different materials that you can use. I said I also had a leaf here, so I can place the leaf underneath the paper, press it down, and then I can rub over the leaf with my paper. With the paper on top, and I can maybe get a pattern of that leaf on the paper and they call that a rubbing. That's called a rubbing. And that's another pattern that you can use to make, and then you can again repeat it over and over. I said I had a potato masher, so you can pick up the potato masher, you can dip it down into some ink or some acrylic paint. Or, if you don't have that available, you can pour a little coffee into a saucer, use that as a medium, and then stamp that onto the paper and you'll leave a wet coffee mark. And again, do that over and over again until you form something that you like. It doesn't have to take a full form of a figure or an item. It could remain abstract. And then when you're done, dip your fingers in that paint and do a little splash and see what it comes to. The whole goal behind mark making is to explore and play and see what you can make with the materials that you have on hand. Again, making art is not about having the most expensive tools. It's not even about having traditional tools. It's just about using what you have available to you to express your feelings, thoughts, ideas through the creation of a piece of art. So that's pretty much all the time we have for today. I hope this inspires you to try making some art the next time you are trying to work through a problem, and I would love to hear about it if you do. Follow me on Instagram at Scribbles and Hearts, and of course, like and subscribe if you would like to hear more. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy embracing the artisan life.